Today, we cover the story of a young man who turned 21 behind bars. A cell instead of a celebration. Concrete and count time instead of comfort. By the time life usually starts, his was already over, locked in under multiple life sentences. Before the triple murder case, before the internet ever said his name, there were police reports, closed files, and chances that never changed the ending. This isn't just about what happened. It's about how everything caught up, all at once. The ending shocked everyone, but the warning signs were already there. This is the story of Omari Shumpert, aka Lil Blast. Welcome to MN Crime Tales, your channel for the most shocking, mysterious, and jaw-dropping crimes from Minnesota. Make sure you smash the subscribe button, and don't forget to like and comment on this video, as we love hearing your opinions on these cases. Now let's jump right into it. Many people heard and saw the ending, but almost no one knows how it started or what was happening behind the scenes through the trial process. That was never in the news, buried in court files and paperwork and conversations in the streets. So let's do that part for you. Omari Shumpert, also known as Lil Blast, was born January 16, 2005. By his teenage years, he was already active in the streets. In his own music and on social media, he talked about being shot as a teenager and regularly referenced guns, territory, and street life. In North Minneapolis, he was associated with the 45th Gang, a crew operating within the High's territory, centered around 45th and Lindale, and he also had connections to other gangs within the High's territory. One of his earliest documented situations appears on December 27, 2018, in Roseville, Minnesota. At the time, Shumpert was a juvenile and was investigated for possession of ammunition and a firearm by a person under 18. The outcome of that case isn't available due to juvenile record law. But his next documented situation came on August 20, 2020, in Crystal, Minnesota. By then, Shumpert was still a juvenile, but law enforcement executed a high-risk search warrant at a residence he was connected to. During that search, police located multiple firearms and ammunition inside the home. Shumpert was detained, interviewed as a juvenile, and booked on suspicion of illegal firearm possession. That case, like the earlier one, did not result in a publicly documented conviction. But the pattern was becoming harder to ignore, and the stakes got higher every time. Then things went to the next level on November 14, 2022, in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. According to police reports, investigators say Omari Shumpert arranged to meet the victim under the pretense of a simple weed sale transaction. What was supposed to be a deal quickly turned into something else. Police records say that during the meeting, Shumpert attempted to rob the victim and produced a handgun. A struggle followed between the two. As the victim turned away, investigators say Shumpert fired a single shot, striking the victim. Shumpert then fled the scene. The victim survived the shooting and was transported for medical treatment. As detectives worked the case, they pointed to surveillance footage, witness statements, social media activity tied to Shumpert, and cell phone location data placing him near the scene at the time of the shooting. Investigators identified Shumpert as the primary suspect. At the time, Shumpert was still a juvenile, and the case was handled accordingly. Despite the seriousness of the allegations and the evidence gathered, the case never made it to trial. Prosecutors later dismissed the case due to a lack of victim cooperation. Once again, the situation ended without a courtroom outcome. The Brooklyn Center robbery case could have been a turning point. It left him with time after a close call, time most people don't get, and time where walking away was still an option. But on January 26, 2024, that pause ended. Because that day, Omari Shumpert went out alongside his older brother, Demetrius Shumpert, and Alonzo Mingo for a planned robbery. What followed wasn't another near miss. It was a crime that would shake Minnesota and permanently close the door on Lil Blast's life in the streets. They had information that a house in Coon Rapids was occupied by a man believed to have cartel-level drug connections. With that knowledge, big money was the motive going in. To make access easier, Alonzo Mingo, also known as Lefty, came up with the plan to wear UPS uniforms to lower suspicion when approaching the house. Mingo had previously worked at UPS through a temporary position and still had the uniforms, which were used to move closer to the property without raising alarm. Omari Shumpert, known as Lil Blast, was not wearing a UPS uniform. Alonzo Mingo and Demetrius Shumpert approached the front door carrying boxes, dressed in UPS uniforms. A young man, not the intended target, answered the door, trusting what he saw. Shortly after Mingo pulled a gun, he pressed it on the man and made it clear this was a robbery. Control was taken immediately. With access to the house secured, Mingo signaled for Omari Shumpert to come from the car and join them inside, bringing the robbery fully into the home. Once inside the house, the robbery escalated quickly. The three men moved through the home armed, controlling the adults and demanding money. The money stash they thought was there was not, in reality. During the confrontation near the front entry, Omari Shumpert fired a gun and killed one of the victims. The robbery continued as control inside the house was maintained. Alonzo Mingo later shot and killed the other two victims in separate areas of the home. Two young children were present during the whole ordeal, an even more heartbreaking reality of the crime. All three fled the scene together and the young children were left behind with the dead bodies. What began as a robbery ended with 3 people dead and a case that would move forward on murder charges. Alonzo Mingo was taken into custody on January 26, 2024, the same day as the murders. He was stopped and arrested in Fridley, Minnesota, after law enforcement identified his vehicle on camera and located him during a traffic stop just hours after the crime. Omari Shumpert and his older brother Demetrius Shumpert were both taken into custody on February 13, 2024. They were located and arrested in Minneapolis, Minnesota, after investigators completed follow-up work tying them to the robbery and killings. It was later learned that the intended target of the robbery was already under federal investigation for drug-related activities. With all 3 men now in custody, the case entered its next phase. On February 14, 2024, the state of Minnesota formally filed criminal complaints against all 3 men, charging them on the same day. The initial charges accused them of second-degree murder, alleging the deaths were intentional but not premeditated, and that firearms were used during the robbery inside the Coon Rapids home, either directly or through aiding and conspiracy. At that stage, these were the charges on the table. Not the final word. Not the highest level possible. Just the beginning of how the case would ultimately escalate. Then on April 16, 2024, a grand jury returned indictments upgrading the murder charges to first-degree murder against all 3 men. A charge that carries a mandatory life sentence in Minnesota. By the time those indictments were handed down, prosecutors already believed they had a strong case. They had the murders captured on camera through a thorough surveillance system inside the house. Movements, timing, entry, exit, what happened inside wasn't just reconstructed, much of it was recorded. But the video wasn't the state's only leverage. They also had cooperation from Omari Shumpert. He didn't plead guilty and he didn't have a deal. Instead, he agreed to cooperate under a proffer agreement, giving statements without any guaranteed benefit. In those statements, Omari explained how the robbery came together. He said the belief that the house in Coon Rapids was connected to major drug distribution was already circulating before January 26 and that this belief drove the decision to target the home. Based on what he said, it appeared that his mother was aware of the plan as it was being prepared, involved in conversations before they left, and may have been the source of the information about the target's drug activity. Omari said Alonzo Mingo came up with the UPS uniform plan, using clothing he already had to gain access. He admitted he stayed in the car at first while Mingo and his brother approached the door, and said he joined them inside only after the gun was pulled and access was secured. He placed himself, his brother, and Mingo inside the house, described how the robbery unfolded, and implicated his brother directly in the events that followed. When Mingo decided to take his case to trial, Omari took the stand, repeating much of what he had already told investigators about how the robbery was planned and how it turned into murder. Mingo was convicted on multiple counts of first-degree murder stemming from the Coon Rapids triple homicide. On September 11, 2025, he was sentenced to multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole, one tied to each first-degree murder conviction. Demetrius went to trial and was convicted on multiple counts of aiding and abetting first-degree murder. He was sentenced on January 8, 2026, receiving multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole, one for each victim. Omari Shumpert's case went to trial. During the proceedings, prosecutors introduced his prior documented encounters with law enforcement in Roseville and the city of Brooklyn Center, arguing those incidents showed a pattern of escalating violence that predated the Coon Rapids homicide case. On January 9, 2026, Omari Shumpert was sentenced to multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole. He was 20 years old. It marked the end of one era in his life and the beginning of another, far darker one. After sentencing, Omari and his older brother Demetrius were transferred to St. Cloud Prison, Minnesota's primary intake facility. At the same time, Alonzo Mingo was already housed there and remains there as of the release of this episode, meaning all three could be occupying the same spaces again for the first time since the crime that sent them away for life. One final detail stood out. On January 16th, just days after sentencing, Omari turned 21 years old inside prison. That same day, a post appeared on his active Facebook account asking people to send him money for his birthday. In other posts around that time, he claimed his innocence, publicly disputing the outcome despite his own admissions to investigators and his testimony on the stand. Turning 21 didn't mark freedom or adulthood like it does for many. It marked the beginning of a lifetime behind concrete and count time, with no way back out. After his conviction, Alonzo Mingo, also known as Lefty, recorded a video while incarcerated at St. Cloud and posted it to his now deactivated Facebook account. In the video, Mingo discusses the legal process in his case and says he had no prior knowledge that his co-defendant, Lil Blast, would take the stand against him. Let's listen.
Took him to trial, and yeah, I lost round one. They gave me 3 L's, but that was round one. I wasn't fully prepared to step in the ring with him. I ain't know my Lil's co-defendant, Omari Shumpert, the little rapping called himself Lil Blast on YouTube, was gonna take the stand at my trial and tell lies. The even told on his mom and his brother. Crazy. Hey, the transcript's on my page. All you gotta do is go look and go check it out for yourself. I ain't know my lawyers be They were garbage cans with arms, legs, and a mouthpiece. Picture that. I ain't know I would have an all-white jury or an old Mr. They on the streets never gave me a fighting chance. My case was politics to her. It wasn't about justice or fairness. But round two, I'm going to be overly prepared, overly focused, overly determined, overly aware, and overly strategic, and I will win. Them 3 L's, they getting them back. That's a check you can take to any bank of cash. Hey, victory comes with perseverance. Relief comes after affliction, and ease after hardship. I'm a persevere because I'm resilient. I'm Mona son. Thanks for all the real love, even the fake love too. Yeah, I lost round one, but staying tuned for round two. 100.